Welcome to Revenge Was Peace. Don't forget to subscribe and leave your comment.
I used to think I hit the jackpot with my mother-in-law. She hugged me like a daughter, cooked my favorite meals, defended me in front of nosy relatives, and every time my fiancé did something stupid, she'd look at me with those big sympathetic eyes and say, "Don't worry, honey, he's lucky to have you." And I believed her. I believed everything she said. Because in a world where most girls dread their in-laws, I felt like I'd won some twisted lottery. I was the orphan who got a second chance at family. That's how she made me feel. But what I didn't know, what I couldn't have imagined, was that the woman calling me her angel was orchestrating my emotional breakdown behind the scenes. Yeah, we'll get there, but let me start from the beginning. Before everything went dark, I met Ethan when I was 25. He was tall, quiet, soft-spoken. He worked in finance and didn't like clubs or loud places. I thought he was mature, stable, the kind of man who didn't need to impress anyone. We moved in together after 6 months. His mom, Teresa, came over every Sunday without fail. At first, it was weird. I won't lie. She brought casseroles, cleaned our bathroom uninvited, and rearranged our spice rack. But she always smiled, always called me sweetheart, always said, "You're the calm he needed." I should have listened better, because people don't say that unless they've seen the storm. The first red flag was so small I almost missed it. I had a job interview, a big one, and that morning, Ethan had taken the car without telling me. He said, "I thought you'd reschedule. You always get anxious before big stuff." Teresa called me later that night, said Ethan just didn't want me to stress too much, that he worried I was too fragile sometimes. And then she added, "Men like women who know their limits, darling." I laughed it off. I shouldn't have, because soon, those little moments started stacking up. When I got promoted at work, Ethan got cold. When I went out with friends, he got distant. And every time I mentioned it to Teresa, she'd say, "Just be patient with him. He's still learning how to share space with someone strong like you." What did that even mean? But I wanted to believe she was on my side. I needed that. So I swallowed my doubts and told myself I was lucky to have a partner whose mother actually liked me. Until I found the text. It was a Thursday. Ethan had gone to bed early. His phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. One message preview lit up the screen. She cried, just like you said she would, from a number saved as J. I stared at that message for so long my eyes started to blur. And when I finally opened the full thread, I felt my stomach cave in. I told her you were at dinner with someone else. She asked if it was true. I said yes. She didn't even scream, just froze. My throat went dry. And then I saw it. "Thanks for the cash, BW. You didn't have to double it. But hey, pain pays." I stood there shaking, not from the betrayal, not yet, but from confusion. Who was Jay? What did they mean by pain pays? I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I stared at the ceiling and let the silence crawl all over me, because I knew what came next. I just didn't know it would lead back to the woman who called me family. The next morning, I waited until Ethan left for work. Then I took his phone. Yeah, I know how that sounds. But after what I read, there was no going back. I needed answers, and I got them. Because Jay wasn't some random fling or co-worker. It was Jasmine, my ex. The girl I dated for almost 3 years before Ethan. The one who cheated on me with my roommate. The one who messaged me a year later asking for closure. I had blocked her on everything. So why was she talking to my fiancé? More importantly, why was he paying her? I scrolled up. The messages started weeks ago. Long threads. Photos. Screenshots. He was feeding her information about me. Tell her you saw me with someone at the cafe. Mention she was blonde. Say she laughed a lot. Let's see how she reacts. And Jasmine would respond. Easy. I'll make it sting. She believed me right away, BW. Girls still soft. Payment received. I felt sick. Because this wasn't some dumb prank. It was a test. They were testing me. Ethan, the man who promised to protect me. The one who kissed my forehead when I cried at night. He was paying someone from my past to break me down just to see how I'd handle it. What kind of man does that? And what kind of woman helps? I couldn't confront him. Not yet. I needed more. So I dug deeper. Emails. Venmo transactions. A shared folder labeled Notes J inside. A spreadsheet. Literal columns. Scenario, expected reaction, actual reaction, payment sent Y, and it was like reading a lab experiment on my own pain. One row made my blood freeze. Scenario: she gets ghosted for her birthday, expected. Tears. Withdrawal, actual. Said it's okay. Went to work anyway, payment sent. Yes, that was last month. The day I sat alone in my apartment with a cake I bought myself. Telling people online that Ethan was just tired from work. He had planned it. He watched me cry and wrote it down like data. I slammed the laptop shut. My hands were shaking. My teeth hurt from how hard I was clenching my jaw. I didn't care about Jasmine. Not anymore. She was a parasite, sure, but predictable. Ethan? He was the monster I never saw coming. But it was still missing one piece. Why? Why go through all this? What was he trying to prove? And that's when I remembered something. A conversation I had with Teresa months ago. We were sitting in her backyard, drinking lemonade. She was talking about how modern women are too emotional and how men today need to be sure. Then she said, "Real love is proven under pressure, sweetie, not comfort." I didn't understand it then. Now I do. Because later that night, I checked Ethan's shared calendar. He had a folder for Mom. Inside? Emails, invoices, and one chilling note. Payment to Jasmine confirmed. Told her to escalate next week. Mom approved. That's when everything shattered. It wasn't just Ethan. Teresa was behind it. She wasn't trying to welcome me into the family. She was stress testing me, like I was some used car her son might buy. And Jasmine? Just a tool. A mirror held up to see how far I'd bent before I broke. I sat in the dark for hours, not crying, not even angry yet, just hollow, because it hit me. I was never like a daughter to her. I was a project, a profile, a gamble. And the worst part, they almost got away with it. I didn't confront anyone that week. No screaming, no crying, no dramatic accusations. Because the moment I realized Teresa was involved, I knew I had to be smart. She was dangerous. Not in a movie villain way, but in that quiet, manipulative, smile while she stabs you way. The kind of woman who would cry in public and make everyone believe I was unstable. So I smiled back, played my part. I cooked dinner. I texted Ethan cute updates. I let him think everything was fine. And every night, I added more evidence to a hidden folder. Screenshots, payment records, audio recordings. I even started forwarding his emails to a private account. I didn't know what I'd do with it yet, but I needed leverage. If they were testing me fine, I'd give them results they weren't ready for. Because I wasn't broken. Not yet. The next Sunday, Teresa came over. She kissed my cheek like nothing had happened and brought her usual lasagna. While Ethan set the table, she whispered to me, "You've been glowing lately. I knew you'd pass through the rough patch." I nodded, smiled, and said, "I just feel so supported." She beamed like a proud coach. If I hadn't already seen those emails, I might have believed her. But now, every word she said sounded like poison wrapped in silk. Later that night, Ethan suggested we go on a weekend trip. Just us, he said. No phones, no stress. I agreed, but not because I wanted to reconnect. I needed him away from his computer, because I had a plan forming, one that required precision, silence, and just a right amount of betrayal. The weekend was exactly what I expected. Fake deep conversations, forced laughter, a cheap motel with no room service. But the moment he fell asleep, I opened his bag and pulled out his backup drive. Idiot kept everything. Notes, journals, an actual voice memo titled Teresa Final Test Idea. I hit play. Her voice, calm and clipped, came through. "Let's try something intimate. Something that would break trust like a false affair. If she stays loyal, we can move forward. If not, well, she wasn't strong enough." Then Ethan's voice, "I still think she's too soft. But fine, let's see." I sat there in the dark, holding that drive, listening to the two people I trusted the most discuss me like I was a lab rat. Not a woman, not a partner, just a variable in their twisted equation. When we got home, I made my move. I emailed myself everything. Then I sent one thing, just one, to Teresa. A screenshot. It was a copy of the voice memo, with the caption, "This is how you love your future daughter-in-law." She didn't respond for 6 hours. Then I got this. "Let's meet. Just you and me, please." I showed up at her house the next day. She made tea. Didn't even pretend to deny it. She sat down, crossed her legs, and said, "I didn't want to hurt you. I just needed to be sure." I asked, "Sure of what?" She shrugged. "That she wouldn't run when things got hard. That she'd stay loyal under pressure. My son deserves someone resilient." I was trying to protect him. I laughed. I actually laughed. "Protect him? You turned my life into a game show." She tilted her head. "And you passed. You're still here, aren't you?" That's when it clicked. She really thought this was love. That betrayal could be a tool. That manipulation was just another form of tough love. And I realized something else too. This wasn't just about Ethan. Teresa had built her whole identity around controlling the people she loved. But not me. Not anymore. After that meeting with Teresa, I went quiet. On the outside, I played the good fiancé, still planning the wedding, still smiling at brunch, still glowing, as she liked to say. But inside, I was done. And if they wanted tests, I'd give them the final one. Mine. I started with Ethan. One night, I told him I wanted to postpone the wedding. I said I was feeling overwhelmed, maybe even depressed. I wanted to see how he'd respond. He looked annoyed, not concerned, not loving, just tired. He said, "Don't spiral again, okay? We've worked too hard for this." We didn't do anything. I was the one being dragged through emotional hell. He was just the observer, but I nodded, like a good girl. Next, I made copies of everything. Hard drive, emails, memos, Jasmine's payment history. I even recorded Teresa's confession just in case. Then I started dropping hints to Ethan. Little things. Leaving his phone screen unlocked with Jasmine's number visible. Mentioning how odd it was that I hadn't heard from my old ex in years. Watching his face. He flinched every time. He knew the walls were closing in. But he didn't confess. Because men like him don't confess. They calculate. Delay. Hope you're bluffing. He really thought I'd stay. 1 week later, I made it official. I sent a mass email. To his friends. To our families. Even to his boss. Subject line: "Before I say I do the truth inside." I didn't rant. I didn't beg for sympathy. I just attached the files. A short note: "This is how Ethan and Teresa prepared me for marriage. I've decided not to participate." Then I blocked them both. Phone, email, socials, everything. The fallout? Immediate. Teresa sent 6 voicemails, Crying about how I humiliated the family, Ethan came to my apartment banging on the door, yelling that I overreacted and that he only did it because he cared. I didn't answer. I watched him from the peephole, and for the first time in years, I felt safe on the other side. The best part? Jasmine messaged me. Yup. Said she felt bad and needed the money, but she didn't know it would go that far. I replied with one sentence. You were perfect for them. That's all I needed to know. Then blocked her too. I didn't make a big speech. Didn't post some dramatic video. I just left. Let the silence explain everything. And it did. Louder than I ever could. After the blast email, everything changed. Not just the obvious things like canceling the wedding, moving out, deleting years of shared photos. But something inside me shifted too. It was like I'd been living underwater. And for the first time, I could breathe. I moved in with an old friend from college. Small apartment. Noisy neighbors, mismatched furniture. But it felt more like home than anything I'd had with Ethan. Because no one was testing me. No one was keeping score. No one was watching to see if I'd break. Just me. Healing. On my own terms. For a while, I kept expecting some final confrontation. Some dramatic showdown. Maybe Teresa showing up with tears and apologies. But that moment never came. What I got instead was silence. A few mutual friends told me Ethan was devastated. One even said he was confused why I'd ruined things that way. That made me laugh out loud. Because that's the thing about people like him. They ruin you slowly, and then act shocked when you finally walk. 2 months later, I got an email from a woman named Claire. The subject line? You don't know me. But I think Teresa tested me too. She was dating a guy from Teresa's circle. Said she overheard something during a family dinner about how smart Teresa was to vet her son's fiancé. She found my story through someone who'd forwarded the email blast. And suddenly, all her weird moments, gaslighting, emotional traps, strange coincidences made sense. She wasn't paranoid. She was a lab rat too. That message hit me hard, because it confirmed what I already suspected. I wasn't the first, and I probably wouldn't be the last. Teresa wasn't a one-time manipulator. She was a system, a full-blown social engineer. And Ethan? Just a willing participant in her control theater. But here's the thing. Once someone tries to break you and fails, they don't know what to do with you anymore. They can't control you, can't predict you, can't label you, and that terrifies them. So I stayed quiet, didn't respond to gossip, didn't post updates. I focused on building something no one could sabotage. A version of me that didn't seek approval, didn't confuse emotional abuse with concern, didn't call manipulation tough love. One night, my friend asked me if I ever missed Ethan. I thought about it. The routine, the dinners, the fake warmth. Then I looked at the silence around me. No tension, no fear, no games. And I said, I miss who I thought he was. But that person never existed. It's been a year now. A full year since I walked away from a family that never truly saw me. Since I stopped calling betrayal misunderstanding. Since I realized I don't need to be tested to prove my worth. I've changed. Not in loud, obvious ways, but in the quiet kind. I started writing again. Something I used to love before all the chaos. Adopted a rescue cat who hates loud noises and only trusts people who sit still long enough. Got a new job, smaller company, better energy. My boss? A woman who believes in boundaries. I still flinch sometimes when I hear certain phrases, like you're too sensitive, or it was for your own good. But now I recognize them for what they are. Red flags dressed as advice. I haven't seen Ethan since that day at my door. But once, I bumped into Teresa. Grocery store, frozen aisle. She looked thinner, worn, eyes darting like she expected me to scream. I didn't. I just looked at her, and I smiled. Not out of forgiveness, not out of pity, but because I was done. There was nothing left to say. She opened her mouth, maybe to explain, maybe to apologize. But I walked away before she could speak, because her voice no longer had a home in me. Sometimes people ask me how I got over it. The betrayal, the gaslighting, the cruelty behind the curtain, and I tell them this. You don't heal by getting even. You heal by getting free. I didn't need revenge. I needed peace. Ethan still lives in the same city, from what I hear. Still dating girls who are nice enough. Still trying to control what he never truly understood. Maybe one day he'll change. Maybe not. But that's not my story anymore. Because I'm not the woman who sat crying over fake scenarios anymore. I'm not the girl who begged for love in exchange for pain. I'm not even angry. I'm just done. This chapter is closed. And the best part? I stopped waiting for apologies.